which way I'm supposed to go. All I know is hustling, money stay on my mind. I don't know no other way, all I know is grinding. Yeah, I gotta get mine, I gotta make this pay. All I know is hustling, money stay on my mind. I don't know no other way, all I know is grinding. Yeah, I gotta get mine, I gotta make this pay. They say money make the world go round. They say money make the money make the world go round.
Good with this, your boy King. Shout out to all the homies, Dollars. I see you doing big things. Still a little frustrated and actually upset that I went in the movie, but I know y'all catch me next time. 909 Entertainment.
Let everybody else politics first and we go back to bomb on who I am and we come back. Maybe get the thing popping around here, man.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I had everything you did.
yes, ma'am. Both.
This ain't no drop money, you got real money. They ain't going nowhere. I'm trying to come back to Jamaica.
Follow me on Twitter at TJBird. I want that exclusive, ask me exclusive. It'll suck. I'm good.
Already swag money. 909 Entertainment in the building. It's going down.
Mel Smith, Senior Vice President, Cash Money Records. I started in the music business in 1986. I worked at a record store called Nobody Beats Wiz in Brooklyn, and I went to Sam Goody's. I ran Sam Goody's. I was #2 manager there. Started in the stockroom, to cashier, to assistant manager in 1988. Left there, went to RCA Records. One of the first labels that I worked with was Jive, and ended up breaking Kumo D, Boogie Down Productions, D-Nice, Tribe Called Quest, and just, I mean, you name it, everything that Jive had. I left there, went to Houston, did rap a lot, broke the Ghetto Boys and Scarface, and also I did 2 short whiles at Jive, and I went to Rap a Lot. While I was at Rap a Lot, I took some time off and went to Uptown. I was out in New York visiting a few friends, and they called me and was like, yo, just come hang out. When they hang out, they played me a soundtrack from Strictly Business, and it had a record in there by Mary J. Blige called You Remind Me. I love the record so much, I told them I would break it for nothing, because I just wanted to break the record because of my love for music. I left and went to Uptown. That's where I met Puff. We worked together for like 2 years, did Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, met Biggie at the beginning of his career, and all the acts that Uptown had, from Christopher Williams and just everybody. 94, Puff called me, I was out in LA. He said, I'm gonna start this label. I got 2 rappers, none of them are beautiful, but they're really, really talented. And it was Biggie and Craig Mack. Went out there, he said he couldn't pay me what I was working at the time, but just come work with him and help him. So we did Bad Boy from 94 to like 2005. And then I was a Bad Boy, everything's great, and Slim called me at Cash Money and was like, look man, we got this little rapper who's incredible, and we want to make sure that he gets to where he got to go, the next level. And at first I wasn't going to take the meeting because, you know, I was good at Bad Boy, I'd been there for so long, but Slim is a great person, and really was just, we had a great conversation, and the energy was good. Sometimes you meet somebody and the energy was good and it feels good, and that's what it felt like. So I left and sat with him. He played me the Carter 2, which is Wayne's album, from front to back, and I just listened to the album and I said I got to be a part of this project because I really believe in it. And I left Puff. It was hard, it was the hardest thing to do after being with him for all those years, but I came to Cash Money, and I've been there from 05 to for the last 7 years. So it's Ricky, it's Drake, it's Ricky, and Wayne, and everybody. So, you know, a day-to-day life, I mean, a day-to-day for me, more or less, I break all the records, get them playing in the radio station, we set up promo tours, promotional events in different cities, everything. We interact with all the artists, all the management, Baby, Slim, everybody. So we're like the start engine for all the groups. Like from Wayne to Drake to Nicki, me and Malcolm, we break all the records. Like it's our job to get them played on the radio.
When you say break a record, what does that mean?
If you give me a record that, you know, it's a brand new act, nobody never heard of it before. Like when we got Nicki, I mean, we had Nicki in the beginning, nobody really heard of her. She was underground, she was just incredible, raw artist, like, you know, just this girl who everybody was hearing about. The buzz was incredible. But our job is to break her, is the breaking of her record, which is an introduction into the music business. Radio stations, different formats. So we have to go around and convince radio stations how to play her, why they should play her record and who she is. And basically just an introduction to her, her music, her brand. And that's what we call breaking an artist. That's what we do.
I'm Malcolm Miles, VP of Cash Money Records. Started music business in 1996, actually. I was on a little different start from Mel. I was on the street team with the Bad Boy. I was a guy running around putting up the poster boards, running around with the bullhorns all around the country. You know, I kind of lucked up early because that's when I first got there, it was the Puff Daddy and Family tour. I wound up jumping on that tour, being able to travel. But, you know, during that time being on the street team, I got to meet DJs across the country because every night we're in the club, every day we're in the radio station. So I always made sure I got contacts from everybody. Long story short, I got offered a job of doing Mix Show Radio about a year later. I did Mix Show for 2 years there. One of the first records that I could say I broke with Black Rob Whoa. After that, then it was like the Shine record with Barrington Levy. It was Carl Thomas, Emotional, that whole album. And then during that time, I got offered a job at J Records. It's funny that me and him work together now because when I was leaving Bad Boy, they had just fired my boss and brought in Mel to come back to Bad Boy. And it was like, you know, where I wound up, you know, like he said, it's kind of funny just listening to what he says because when you're at Bad Boy, it's a whole nother experience. Like it was one of the hardest things to do was to leave Bad Boy. You know, just the whole loyalty to being the Puff because, you know, that's where you started. He treats you so well. You know, you learn a lot. It's a lot of stuff you got to deal with Puff. But at the end of the day, you know, he's one of the reasons why we're blessed today. You know what I mean?
And not to cut him off, but the interesting thing about that is that it's the same way now at Cash Money. Like for us to leave Cash Money after being there 7 years is the same kind of bond. Like where we've been with Baby and Slim for so long. Like we came there, like it was just through a period, there was nothing out. I remember when I first came in 05, Wayne Carter 2 was out, and then we just had Birdman, Neck of the Woods. There was nothing else. The mention of Young Money was just a few verses here and there. There was no Drake, there was no Nicki, there was no movement. And it was just basically believing in the label at the time. And it's the same way we feel now about Cash Money, that, you know, the way it's all grown to be. We're one big family, with Baby and Slim, and we get together, we break bread, we have meetings, with music, and it's good in terms of just the energy that we have there now. And not to cut you off, but it's just, I just say, like, it's just, you know, it's a good feeling that we have. Go ahead, I'm sorry, right there. Back to Malcolm.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, so, where was I at?
You were talking about how hard it was to leave Bad Boy.
Well, when I played this one, then he got in trouble with the whole Shine, Jennifer Lopez thing in the club. So I hated to leave at that time, but the opportunity when Clive started J Records was there. So I wound up taking that opportunity. I went over to J Records, being senior vice president of his rap department. That's when he first signed. He gave Wyclef his label deal. He had Swizz with the Full Surface. And he had Busta Rhymes. So I did like Busta Rhymes, Break Your Neck, Pastor Cavassier, Alicia Keys, Fallen, Girlfriend, all that stuff. Jimmy Cozier, Olivia Bizhouse when Olivia had a deal over there. And I got to work with Luther Vandross, his last album. After that, I did one of the ultimate mistakes that I realized today. I left J Records for one reason only. I went to Sony Urban. That's because I chased the check instead of staying with a great job. You know what I mean?
Say that again.
I chased the great check instead of staying with because believe it or not, if I would have stayed at J Records, I might have still been at J Records today. It was that type, there's that kind of system over there. But I wound up going to Sony Urban, you know, in 2004. I worked with John Legend's first album, Life Journey's first album, 3 Mafia, Stay Fly. It's funny that he was at Cash Money at the time, 2005, and he called me up from Sony. It's like, yo, I'm over at Cash Money now.
Tell them the story. We were in Houston. This is a true story. We're in Houston, and they're putting up this big party for Puff outside this building downtown, big giant tent. So I'm Slim and Baby come to the office in Houston. They come in town for the All-Star. So they asked me to get the best guy in terms of mixed show promotion, rap show, who knows everybody in the game from Flex to Cal, everybody, get him on the phone, and just a beast. I said, I don't know if we can afford it. Exactly what I told Slim. I said, I don't know if we can afford it. And he said, who is it? I said, Malcolm. I called Malcolm, just happened to be across the street under the tent talking. I go to Malcolm and I say, listen, we need you. He says to me, y'all can't afford me. And I said, am I right? Am I right? He said, just like this. Malcolm, nah, y'all can't, I ain't doing it. I'm not coming over there. Y'all can't afford me. I'm not doing it. I'm good over here. And I'm like, you serious? Like, at the time, we was gaining momentum. I think we had Hustle's music out, and then we were dropping, the Carter 2 was just, Wayne was just getting on a bunch of records. He had you and Lloyd. We had a few records that was gaining steam, and the momentum was building. Mal was like, nah, y'all can't afford me. So I was like, all right. I went to Slim.
I was on the John Legend,
I went to
Life Journey's 3 Mafia train, feeling good. You know what I mean? Like I said, I chased a great check, so I was good.
I went back to Slim. I said, Slim, he won't come. You know, Slim's like, yeah. He won't come? I said, well, he won't come. He said, all right. Yeah. So I left it alone. I left it alone. I said, all right, he won't come.
Let me tell you something. That was one of the worst. That's another bad mistake I made because, like I said, it was a great check. When I tell y'all, Sony Urban Records, I wanted to quit the music business because when you deal with a company, now I went from Bad Boy, street label, so I learned the street way of doing the things in the music business, going to J Records, which introduced me to corporate America the right way. So now I have a taste of both. So I go over to Sony with a staff that pretty much does not know black culture music the right way, you know, the way it should be promoted and what's good and what's bad. So you have to deal with maybe the advice of a 60-year-old white man who doesn't know, all he knows is numbers. He doesn't really care about the music. So it's kind of hard dealing with that sometimes, so over a while it became very stressful. So fortunate for me, 2006, Mel comes back around. I was like,
yeah, I came to.
How much was that number again?
Now, right?
I told Slim, I said he'll do it. So we grabbed Malcolm up.
So I've been there since 2006 to present day, and it's been like one of the best experiences of my life. You know what I mean? It's probably one of the next label that I'll probably be a part of will be me and his label. So.
And like, to be honest with you, more than anything, it's a blessing to be a part of two dynasties, the Bad Boy dynasty in the 90s and then the Cash Money. I mean, I don't even know the Cash Money dynasty because like, if you really look at the history, even before we got there, like they had, I don't think no labels had a run as long as they did from back that.
Yeah, that's it. Back the ass up.
Yeah. I can say that. Slap in my head. So if from that time of 98 to 97 or whatever, all the way to now, I don't think nobody labels had that long of a historic run. I mean, you know, and they're still around. I mean, they got hits from back then to there. So it's just really a blessing. This is an incredible run.
Blessing, luck, a lot of things involved with this because you don't go anywhere where hip hop artists like a Wayne, Drake, Nicki, back to back are just continuing being successful. Like let me tell you all the ringtone and digital numbers is unbelievable what Cash Money and Young Money's doing today. Unbelievable. And it's just a blessing for us, you know, to be a part of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just to be right there at the beginning, to see the label grow in its embryo stages and see it like now, like the baby's running, and it's like now, and it's just like like if you could really see like from Wayne to Drake to Nicki, and now you see Tyga becoming this big artist on his own, and then you got Twist, and it's like there's so many. It's almost like Baby and Slim just keep putting them in the chamber, and then we just make sure that they play on the radio stations, and we grow them, and they, you know, they go out on the road, they do interviews, and you know, but it's a great situation. It's a blessing though more than anything, because we couldn't have wrote this story like it's just to be a bad boy and then now to be a Cash Money. You know, that's the.
I was at Sony, we had that record, Soldier. When I first heard the record, you know, they had like T.I., I think it was T.I. Slim Thug, and it was like, we're gonna put Lil Wayne on. I was like, why are you doing that? But I didn't see that. I didn't see the movie happening at that time, you know what I mean? And that's where it kind of started, on that Soldier record, kind of, believe it or not. From that Soldier record on, is when Wayne like started really taking off, you know what I mean?
We appreciate your time. You guys want to take like a couple questions before we have to get to the next slide?
Yeah, I have a question. You said you guys are mostly responsible for breaking a record in the radio. Is there a certain percentage of radio stations that you need to accomplish in order to break that record? A percentage?
Certain artists. I think certain artists got to get a certain amount of spin before you could take it to the next level. You know, all the records like start from the clubs on the big show. So let's say maybe, and let's use an example. Let's say we have a record like a little Twist record, and if he's getting mix show spins, maybe we want him at least 200 mix show spins before we go for ads on the record. Compared to like maybe a Wayne, a Drake, or Nicki, we're probably gonna have 1,000 going into ad day.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And going for ads is, we set a day, say it's February 10th. That's the day that we go to radio, and we try to get every radio station in the country, whatever format. If it's the urban format, if it's the rhythmic format, or the pop format, we try to get them to add and start playing the record that day. So it's February 10th, we target that day. We want all the roads to meet February 10th to start playing the record. That's why you'll hear a record and you'll be like, man, I was just in Jersey, and I heard it in Jersey, but I didn't hear it there. They didn't start playing it. We try to get all the stations to add it. Now it's almost artistic, because you have to convince a guy in Florida who's playing a whole different kind of music and dance music, and then a guy in New York who's playing a different kind of hip hop, and a guy in Atlanta who's playing Dirty South, and the West Coast sounds nothing like anybody else. So you got to convince all of them that this one record could work in Florida, or in LA, in New York, and in Atlanta. There's a lot of like smoke. There's just a lot of work just to keep it going. And then another thing, like
and every radio station has how many slots? About 26 slots.
26 to 28 slots, meaning of records. Some of them are recurrent. Recurrent meaning, like for example, a good recurrent now could be Jay-Z in Paris, because that record's old now, but they still getting so many requests and keep playing it. And it's not as easy as it looks, because you got to really coordinate it all together to really break the record. But at the end of the day, it's all about the record. Like, it's not about, me and Malcolm are not miracle workers. We do our job well, I think. But it's also, you got to have good music and people that believe in it. Mr. Mel Smith.
She ain't playing, it's real too.
Mr. Mel Smith, and Malcolm's is Malcolm_Miles.
I don't know which way I'm supposed to go.